The West is burning. From the streets of London to the boulevards of Paris, from Berlin squares to the highways of Los Angeles, the anger is exploding. Protesters are not just chanting slogans anymore. They are demanding something unthinkable just a decade ago. Mass deportation. What has caused Western countries, once the strongest supporters of foreign immigrants, to now take to the streets to oppose them? Entire communities are being blamed, and governments that once preached diversity are now drafting laws to send people back. The statistics are staggering, the social fabric is tearing, and a cultural earthquake is shaking the foundations of Western nations. Right now, if you are wondering what I am trying to say, then be patient, I will explain it to you in detail. So in today's video, we are going to show you 10 Western nations that are demanding mass deportation on the streets. But before starting the video, I want to request you, we put our best efforts to create our every single video. So please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Let's start. Number 10, Greece. Imagine a tiny Greek island, once a serene haven of whitewashed homes, azure waters, and whispers of ancient myths, virtually untouched by the chaos of the outside world. Now, its docks groan under the weight of overcrowded boats, unloading hundreds of migrants from Syria, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. In 2024 alone, over 120,000 arrived, a tidal wave of humanity overwhelming Greece, a nation of just 10 million. This influx, equivalent to more than 1% of the population in a single year, threatens to reshape the country's very identity. In Athens, the streets pulse with anger. Locals protest daily, their voices hoarse with desperation. "We cannot carry this weight," shouts a father, his young children clinging to him, wide-eyed on the sidewalk. Mayors, faces etched with exhaustion, beg the EU for mass deportations, warning of collapse. The economic strain is crushing. Greece hemorrhages nearly $600 million annually on migrant welfare, while jobs vanish and youth unemployment festers at 22%. Resentment festers too, a slow-burning fuse. Culturally, Greeks feel their heritage eroding like sandcastles against the tide. Ancient festivals, once vibrant with tradition, are drowned out by unfamiliar customs. Churches stand half-empty as new voices echo in the streets. This isn't just immigration. It's a transformation at a relentless pace, one Greece cannot absorb. Fear grips the nation. Crime rates in migrant-heavy areas have spiked 15% since 2023. Locals whisper of no-go zones after dark, and hospitals strain under a 30% surge in demand. Schools overflow, with classrooms now split by language and culture. The EU offers little relief, leaving Greeks to wonder. Will their homeland still be theirs in a decade? Number 9, Ireland. Picture Dublin in 2025, a city transformed under the weight of an unprecedented migration wave. Streets choke with buses ferrying asylum seekers, their faces pressed against windows, arriving in a nation grappling with its limits. Hotels, once bustling with tourists, now stand as makeshift shelters, lining the city center with signs of a new reality. Nearly 149,200 migrants entered Ireland that year, a 17-year high, pushing the population to 5.38 million and the Muslim population to an estimated 100,000, a sharp rise from 81,930 in 2022. Locals watch helplessly as housing prices soar 14%, with average rents hitting $2,130 a month, 43% higher than pre-COVID levels. Schools overflow with 20% more students than capacity, and hospitals buckle under a 25% surge in demand, leaving patients waiting weeks for basic care. Protests erupt daily, raw and unrelenting. Crowds block buses. Their chants of Ireland is full, echoing through Dublin's historic streets. Slogans demanding mass deportations are scrawled on walls, and clashes turn violent. Once a beacon of tolerance, Ireland now sees a mainstream movement fueled by fear, with 58% of voters in a 2025 poll open to supporting anti-immigration candidates. The anger is palpable. a nation on edge, as citizens feel their identity slipping away. Over 100,000 Ukrainians and 32,000 international protection applicants strain resources, while 14,000 Irish remain homeless, fueling a narrative of us versus them. Schools struggle with language barriers, with 15% of classrooms now needing translators. Hospitals report critical staff shortages, despite 43% of doctors being foreign-trained, propping up a crumbling system. Ireland, a nation of immigrants, now faces a future where locals fear their homeland is no longer theirs. Number 8. Netherlands. Rotterdam, Amsterdam, The Hague. Cities once celebrated as bastions of liberalism now simmer with anger and unrest. Over 18% of the Netherlands, estimated 17.8 million people, roughly 3.2 million are foreign-born, with Muslims making up 7.5% of the population, approximately 1.34 million in 2023. In neighborhoods like Rotterdam's Feyenoord or Amsterdam's New West, immigrant communities dominate, reshaping the cultural fabric with mosques and markets that feel worlds apart from the Dutch tulip fields of old. Welfare dependency among immigrant communities is triple that of native Dutch citizens, with 15% of non-Western immigrants relying on benefits compared to 5% of natives. Social housing waiting lists stretch over 10 years in major cities, where 80% of units are occupied by low-income households, many of them migrants. Streets erupt in protest, with citizens blocking asylum centers, hurling stones, and clashing with riot police, their chants of Netherlands first ringing through the night. Political parties, once moderate, now ride this wave. Mass deportation is no longer a fringe cry but a centerpiece of national debate, with 67% of voters in a 2025 poll supporting stricter immigration policies. The Dutch, known for their tolerance, now fear their identity is slipping away. Number 7. Australia. Some of you might be thinking that Australia is not included in the West. Then I would like to tell them that I am also talking about those countries where anti-immigrant protests are taking place on a mass level, and Australia is also one of them. Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane. Once idyllic cities pulsing with laid-back charm, now seething with public fury. As of 2024, 31.5% of Australia's 27.2 million people, approximately 8.6 million, are foreign-born, the highest proportion since 1892. Muslims number over 813,000, or 3.2% of the population, heavily concentrated in urban enclaves like Sydney's Lakemba and Melbourne's Broadmeadows, where cultural shifts are stark. Housing prices have skyrocketed 15 to 20% in a single year, with median Sydney home prices hitting $1.6 million AUD, that's about 1.5 million US dollars, pricing out local families. Renters fare no better, with 28% of permanent migrants and 30% of all renters spending over 30% of their income on housing, deepening the affordability crisis. Protests flare across suburbs, from Bondi to Footscray. Parents scream outside schools where immigrant children outnumber locals, with 17% of recent migrant households living in overcrowded dwellings needing extra bedrooms. Politicians, under pressure, expedite deportations. Over 1,200 failed asylum seekers and criminals were removed in 2025 alone. Yet, the streets brim with rage, fueled by a 12% rise in reported urban crime rates linked to social tensions. Emergency rooms face 20% longer wait times, with hospitals stretched thin. In 2025, 53% of Australians polled say immigration is too high, up from 49% in 2024, as fears mount that iconic Aussie traditions, mateship, barbecues, and Anzac pride are being eroded. Social cohesion frays as no-go zones whisper through community chats, and 16 arson attacks on asylum centers in the past 2 years amplify the dread. Australians, once proud of their multicultural dream, now fear their nation is slipping into an unrecognizable future. Number 6. Canada. Canada once sold itself as the world's model for multiculturalism. But now the cracks are showing. In 2024, deportations in Canada hit their highest level in a decade. over 20,000 people removed. And yet Ottawa admits tens of thousands more should be deported but remain because their home countries refuse to take them back. Protests have erupted in Toronto and Vancouver, where locals argue mass immigration has fueled a housing disaster. Rents have skyrocketed, home prices are unreachable, and immigrants are being blamed. At the same time, Canadian cities report rising gang violence linked to migrant communities. The economic burden is massive. Billions are spent yearly on health, housing, and social programs for asylum seekers. Public anger is now visible, with major political debates focusing on deportations. Even liberal Canadians are now questioning whether their country can continue at this pace. Culturally, Canadians argue their identity is under pressure. Islamic and South Asian communities have grown rapidly, reshaping the demographics of major cities. Deportation is no longer taboo. It is a serious political debate in Canada. Number 5, United States of America. The southern border is an uncontrolled line, with over 2.4 million illegal crossings recorded alone in 2024, overwhelming border patrols and shredding national security. Shelters are collapsing under the relentless surge, while cities from Los Angeles to New York buckle under the weight of overcrowded schools, hospitals, and housing, teetering on the edge of chaos. Crime linked to immigrant communities screams from the headlines, with ICE reporting 435,719 non-citizens with criminal convictions on their books as of July 2024, fueling fear in communities nationwide. Muslim immigrants, numbering 3.5 million, add to the complex mosaic, but Latin American migrants, especially from Mexico, Venezuela, and Guatemala, drive the largest pressure, with Mexicans alone accounting for 617,770 encounters in 2023. Billions are drained from taxpayers for welfare, healthcare, and public services, strangling the economy and leaving citizens furious. Protests erupt across the nation, with enraged residents in even liberal strongholds like Chicago and Boston demanding mass deportations, feeling utterly betrayed by politicians who ignore their cries. The U.S. is home to 46.2 million immigrants, 13.9% of the population, with an estimated 11.7 million unauthorized immigrants in 2024, a number that skyrocketed since 2019. Over 390 suspected peoples were apprehended at the border since 2021, a 3,000% spike from prior years, raising chilling questions about who's slipping through the cracks. Number 4, France. France has Europe's largest Muslim population, over 6 million, nearly 10% of the nation. Entire suburbs of Paris, Lyon, and Marseille are dominated by migrant communities where French police fear to patrol. Riots in 2023 and 2024, sparked by police shootings of migrant-background youth, turned cities into war zones. Cars burned, shops looted, and hundreds arrested. The French public exploded in anger, with far-right parties surging in polls by promising mass deportations. Economically, France spends more than $9 billion annually on migrant housing and welfare programs, a number heavily criticized by taxpayers. Unemployment among immigrants is nearly double the national average, feeding resentment that migrants are draining the system. Culturally, the clash is undeniable. Islamic traditions are highly visible in public life, sparking debates over secularism, hijabs in schools, and mosque funding. Many French citizens argue their republic is being eroded from within. Deportation is now a mainstream demand, with calls for hundreds of thousands of removals echoing in political campaigns. Citizens demand mass deportation as the only way to regain control. Number 3, Germany. Berlin, Dresden, Hamburg. Cities pulse with unrest, their streets alive with the roar of protests. Since 2015, Germany has opened its doors to over 2.5 million migrants, with the foreign-born population now reaching 17.4 million, or 20.9% of the nation's total. Muslims number over 6 million, roughly 7.2% of the population, their presence reshaping neighborhoods and igniting fierce debates. Welfare dependency grips tightly. 59% of Syrian refugees remain unemployed, draining $45 billion annually from public coffers to sustain migrant support. Crime rates climb, with politically motivated attacks soaring to 60,028 in 2024, a 23% spike in right-wing violence targeting migrants. Anti-Muslim hate incidents surged 114% that same year, fueling fear of cultural erosion. Right-wing parties like the AfD ride this wave, their calls for mass deportation no longer fringe but a thunderous demand echoing through packed squares. Protests turn volatile, with 1,905 violence on refugees in 2024 alone, as citizens decry economic strain and fractured identity. The shadow of remigration looms large, a chilling plan to expel even assimilated citizens, exposed in secret far-right meetings. Germany stands at a crossroads, its future teetering between cohesion and chaos, as voices scream for change. Will the nation bend under this pressure or break? Tell me the comment. Number 2, Sweden. Stockholm, Malmö and Gothenburg. Once serene havens, these cities now tremble under daily protests, their streets echoing with fury. Foreign-born residents number 2.1 million, comprising 20.2% of Sweden's 10.5 million population, with Muslims exceeding 8%, or roughly 840,000, reshaping the nation's fabric. Sweden spends 20 billion euros annually on migrant welfare and housing, straining public coffers. Schools buckle under overcrowding, with 30% of students in some urban areas non-Swedish speaking, while hospitals face critical shortages, with wait times soaring 40% since 2015. Violent crime surges, with violence against women among the highest in Europe, up 20% since 2010, often linked to socio-economically challenged migrant enclaves. Public outrage fuels the far-right Sweden Democrats, who polled at 22% in 2024, amplifying calls for mass deportations. Surveys reveal 60% of Swedes believe immigration has gone too far, with 45% airing cultural erosion. In Malmö, no-go zones spark dread, where police admit losing control to clan-based gangs. Sweden teeters on the edge of a cultural, economic, and political storm, as trust in the state crumbles and voices demand a drastic reckoning. Number 1, United Kingdom. Britain is unraveling. Over 1.2 million arrivals flooded the UK in 2024, pushing the total immigrant population to 11.4 million, with non-EU migrants dominating at 8 million. Muslims now exceed 4 million, heavily concentrated in London, Birmingham, and Luton, where entire neighborhoods feel foreign. Cities are transformed, streets choked with crowds, housing markets collapsed under impossible demand, and council waitlists stretch years. Crime surges, with a 667% spike in anti-Semitic incidents since 2013 and group-based child violence exploitation linked to specific communities rocking public trust. Welfare costs soar to $30 billion annually, draining public coffers. Protests erupt in every major city, from Manchester to Leeds, as furious citizens demand mass deportations. Political parties, sensing the tide, pivot to hardline immigration stances, promising crackdowns. The UK has become the epicenter of Western fury over migration, with 72% of Brits in 2025 demanding reduced immigration. Citizens fear their culture is slipping away, their economy buckling, and their country becoming unrecognizable. Hospitals overflow, with 36% of public concern now tied to NHS strain. Schools struggle to integrate non-English-speaking children, with 10% of migrants reporting poor English proficiency. Small boat arrivals 38,000 in 2024 alone. Fuel outrage, as 70% of these are young men from conflict zones. The West invited the world in. Now, citizens demand mass deportation. From Athens to London, Toronto to Los Angeles, streets are erupting with anger. Economies are strained. Cultures are shifting. Governments are scrambling. One truth is unavoidable. The demand for mass deportation is here to stay. The West is at a breaking point, and the next few years will determine whether nations reclaim their identity or watch it slip away forever. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.